Hey ladies, I am super excited to be sharing tonight about something that is, I'm just gonna grab it a while, totally different than what I normally share about. So this is a very different realm for me to talk about, but I'm excited to share about it. So I recently stopped taking hormonal birth control and I had a ton of questions. So it was something that I had taken for many, many years. I never looked at the side effects, didn't really think about what I was putting in my body, never read the pamphlet. Long story short, you just get used to it and that's just it, right? So for me, that was a norm. I did it for years and years and years and didn't really think about it. It wasn't until I started using natural products and oils and really thinking about what was in my products, in the ingredients, what I was putting on my body, in my body, that I was more aware. So it took a long time for me. So if this is you, no judgment. It took a long time for me to actually make that decision and to decide that I did not want to be on hormonal birth control anymore. So no judgment. I'm not saying that you need to stop your birth control. That is not what this video is about at all. As always, consult with your medical provider if you want to start, stop, change medications, all those kinds of things. This is just some information that I want to share because I had a lot of questions. I reached out to some people actually because of Instagram. I posted some questions about things like trackers and I realized that so many people had the same questions, or they had already been where I was and they had the answers. And I thought, well, gosh, like so many women have these questions. It's not really talked about that much, or I don't know where it is. I couldn't find the information as easily as I thought. So I thought it would just be really nice to chat about this and share with you guys what I have found. So never thought I'd be talking about condoms and tampons and all that jazz online, but so I'm excited to be here and talk about some favorites. So, like I said, I'm not your medical professional. Please consult with them before you start, stop, change meds, all that kind of stuff. This is purely just going to be some things that I have found have been helpful for me and some information. So, a little bit about hormonal birth control. So like I said, I'm not telling you to stop, but there are a lot of risks related to hormonal birth control. So any kind of synthetic hormone that we're putting into our body is just that, it's synthetic, right? So our body doesn't really know how to utilize it the same as it does a natural hormone. And anything that we're using over and over and over again over time, like I was on birth control for literally like half my life. It was awful when I think about it. But I just took it. It was for ease. I didn't have to think about it. I just did it, right? It wasn't a question. It wasn't until I became more aware and started asking things. So I'm going to share some facts with you that I just found. I looked up things from PubMed, from research articles about some risks of hormonal birth control. So women who take the pill have a slightly higher risk for breast cancer, cervical, liver cancers. It puts you in a higher risk for heart disease and stroke, more so if you smoke. There are a lot of nutrient depletions that can happen actually, which is one of the more recent things that I learned about. So things like folic acid, vitamins B12, B6, B2, vitamin C, vitamin E, minerals like magnesium, selenium, and zinc all can be depleted by taking hormonal birth control. So that's really affects your entire body, right? It does one thing, you want it to prevent pregnancy at the time that you're taking it, but it really kind of brings about some other risks with it. So make sure that you're looking at those things, because even as a nurse, I started birth control before I was nursing, but I never looked at that little handout that you get in your pill box, and that just wasn't something that I did. So even as a nurse, I can tell you I never even looked at that. And looking back, I'm like, woof, those are a lot of things I could have avoided for a lot of years, right? So, and everyone's in their own situation. So like I said, this is just how I'm speaking from the situation I'm in. You might be in a different season, different cycle of your life that this doesn't even apply to you. So the birth control that I was on, I looked it up. It's actually gross. So the one that I was on was used also for an acne treatment. So that's why they prescribed it kind of to me in particular, was because I was having a lot of acne issues and I wanted birth control. So they kind of did that at once. It's actually not prescribed as a birth control, but it is. So that's how I ended up on that one. The one that I was on has 4 times increase of blood clots versus other any oral contraceptives, which is crazy. And this is the one I'm looking up that I was on in particular. So there are risks, obviously the usual things like nausea, vomiting, bloating, all those kinds of things. It can bring mental disturbances like altered sex drive, irritability, altered mood, depression are not uncommon, headaches, migraines, skin lesions, rashes, weight changes, either gaining or losing, fluid retention, breast pains, risks of blood clots, breast cancers, diabetes, depression, liver function, migraines, vision. So this is all just from PubMed and Googling the birth control that I was on and reading the side effects. So that's pretty alarming, and I didn't look at those things when I was taking it. So if that's you, that's totally fine. Just making sure that people are more aware of it and they have the option when they're taking these things and they actually know about it, before they take it. So there's some other things that I wanted to talk about other than hormonal birth control, and that is just the products that we're using. So things like tampons, pads, condoms, all those things that are going right in the female reproductive system. They're going in our body, on our body, and for quite a long time. Like, you put in a tampon for hours at a time, and that's sitting in your body, right? So we want to make sure that there's no harmful ingredients in those. According to Environmental Working Group, menstrual pads and disposable baby diapers can carry things like phthalates, harmful volatile organic chemicals. They are listed as reproductive and developmental toxins in California, and European authorities classify them as toxic to reproduction, noting that exposures to these may cause harm to developing fetus. So again, I'm not saying that you have to stop all these things, and I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is those kinds of things are kind of frightening because we're putting those on and in our body as women for a long time, and years and years and years and years. So they're things that we don't want. Bioaccumulation happens when something is in and on our body for long periods of time repeated. And that was me. I did it for years and years and years. So no judgment, like I said. But that's just more risk for our body, right? So we want to have other options and just to know about them. So let's see, what else can I find? So Environmental Working Group also talked about endocrine disruptors, which is also in a lot of home products and personal care products. So they interfere with the normal function of your hormonal system. They have a wide array of negative health impacts. Reproductive health, what else can I tell you? Exposure to these things, these ingredients from menstrual products is at least 10 times higher than estimated absorption rates through the skin anywhere else on the body. And that's because it's right inside of you. So as ladies, literally right inside your reproductive system. Things like pads, panty liners, tampons, they have been found to have a wide range of phthalates, parabens, and trichlocarbons. So there is widespread, frequent, and long-term use of menstrual care products, which also increases your risk of exposure, right? So even if it was just once, but you did it every single month over and over for years and years and years, that just burdens your body a little bit more. So, okay, enough with the facts. Now some of my favorite things. So I never thought I'd be showing underwear online, but that's where I'm going. So Morgan says, menstrual cup. So I haven't tried that one, but I'll mention it briefly. Morgan was actually a really huge help for me. Again, you need to talk about these things with other women, and you need to share about it, because that's how you can get information. That's how I started learning about it, and that's just why I want to share about it and help other women. So my favorite supports for natural tampons are a brand called Bloom. So I haven't tried the Diva cup or the menstrual cups. I've heard great things about them, but as someone who has not had a period for years because I was taking birth control constantly, again, not good for my body. When you know better, you do better. I wanted to switch first to an organic tampon. So I like Bloom. They are lovely. All of it is biodegradable. So the wrapping is biodegradable. The plastic applicators are biodegradable. There's no chlorine, fragrances, dyes, pesticides in them. Why would you want a pesticide in your tampon? When I read that, I was like, oh my God. I even asked my mom after. I don't know if mom's watching, but I asked my mom after. I said, Mom, why would they put these in tampons? I was like, did you know this? And she's like, no, but why would they do that? I said, I don't know either. Like, to stretch the product, to save money, who knows? But like, that is so alarming that we have to worry about chlorine or pesticides being in our tampons. Anyways, freaky, right? Okay, so Bloom is one that I love. It is biodegradable, so I know it's not the same, not as great. I know lots of you guys are saying eco-friendly. Diva cups, these are at least like the packaging is biodegradable. They're organic cotton. I will try a menstrual cup at some point. I wasn't quite there yet, and that's okay, just to honoring you guys like as well. Everyone's individual, so wherever you're at, that's totally fine. So for me, Bloom was awesome. I also bought a lovely little heat pack that's really nice if you're having menstrual cramps. So I love, love, love Bloom, and I will try a menstrual cup at some point. My next favorite one, I think, yeah, period undies are life-changing. Okay, again, like I never thought I'd be sharing about undies online, but legit, these are life-changing. They are the softest, most amazing, comfortable, beautiful pair of underwear I have ever experienced. So these are from Knix, or Knix Wear. They're a Canadian company. I wrote some facts about them. So they've got regular underwear, they've got bras, they've got a whole bunch of things, but these are the period underwear. So they've got like a black little built-in liner to them. So that means that they're going to help if you're wearing a tampon or a cup and you just want a little bit of like leak protection. If you don't want to wear one and you just want to wear these. For me, I personally bought them because I didn't know when I was going to have my period. I was coming off of birth control for so many years that I was like, I'm not going to be at work for 12 hours a day and not know when I'm going to have my period and be like, whoosh, right? I wanted to have a little bit of extra support, and I wear them literally every day now. They are so comfortable. So the period ones are like a little bit thicker with the liner, but literally so comfortable. They've got an anti-odor layer. They've got, let's see, an inner layer absorbs liquid and locks it in. There's leak-resistant layers. They can replace panty liners or their backup period protection. And they're toxic, chemical free. So they don't have something called PFAS in them, which are polyfluoroalkyl substances. So that is a large family of synthetic chemicals that are commonly used as stain or water repellent. You might have heard about them in the news recently, as they have been linked to negative side effects on your health and the environment. They're harmful because they can't be broken down, so can be easily dangerous if they're added to underwear and they're coming in direct contact with our female reproductive system. So I personally am obsessed with these. I think I bought a couple pairs to try, not the period ones, but just regular ones. And then I saw that they were having a Black Friday sale, and I bought like 2 sets of them. I absolutely love them. They come in different styles. They're the softest things you have ever felt in your entire life, and I will not stop talking about underwear. So never thought I would share undies online, but there you go. Okay, my other favorite is a period tracker, or an app. Again, use at your discretion. Make sure you are not just using an app as your form of contraception, because that is not a form of contraception. I use it more of a guide. So like I said, I'm not sure exactly when my period was going to be. I'm still slightly irregular, so I just want to be able to keep a bit more track of my cycle. So I use Flow. I've heard of a couple things like Flow, Clue. There's so many different ones. I really like Flow because it syncs to my Apple Watch. So it can track my sleep, it tracks my steps, it has reminders for you to like drink water, and I pair it with a basal thermometer. So basically what this is, a basal thermometer has a very sensitive thermometer, so it is more exact. So when you ovulate, before you ovulate, your temperature will peak, and if you're using a regular thermometer, it would not, it wouldn't show. But a basal thermometer goes to like 2.2 degrees, so it's very exact. So using it in the morning before you wake up, I just literally turn it on. There's one little click and one little click off, and you just track your temperature. You put it in the Flow app, and it'll give you a chart. So again, this is not a form of contraception at all. However, it can be coupled with other things like cervical mucus tracking, which I don't do, and I'm not going to talk about. You can look more into that if you want. But there are some benefits of just being able to know when your cycle is. So knowing when your period is going to start, watching for those cues, having kind of a guide. If you're using it more for contraception, you're not going to just be checking a temperature. You're going to have to be doing some other things, which I'm not going to get into. But know that that is not a form of contraception, is to track your period. don't do that. So I love Flow because it's easy, it's free, it syncs with everything like I said, and it just easily logs it. There's lots of articles in there. There is a paid version if you want more information, but it's just super helpful to have, so I love that. And this was a basal thermometer from Amazon, so it's really cheap. What else can I tell you? It's useful if you're trying to become pregnant or if you're not trying to become pregnant. So whether you want to track when you're ovulating to avoid sex or because you want to get pregnant, temperature tracking is great for that. So another person said Kindara is a great app for tracking cycle and basal body temp. Nice. Yes. Okay, Morgan would like to talk about cycle tracking, so she can do that. Or if you want to join me, Morgan. Okay, Morgan, comment below if you want to join me and hop on and talk about cycle tracking. No pressure though. Okay, and then the other thing that I found very disturbing / they're way harder to find is natural condoms. So please, Mom, don't watch. I've not used condoms. Reggie and I have been together for almost 8 years. I haven't used condoms in years. So we didn't even have to think about that. But coming off of birth control, obviously we're wanting to be a little more cautious. We're not having a little friend yet. We're not having kids yet. So we wanted to be able to use condoms to have safe sex. So these are way harder to find, honestly. This was probably the hardest part of this whole chat, was to find natural condoms to use. So the first one that I found and I loved was Sustain condoms, they're called. Just S-U-S, Sustain. I actually found them on the US Amazon side. They were difficult to get to Canada, and the second time I looked for them, I could not find them. Like, they wouldn't ship to Canada. So if you find Sustain condoms, they're great. They don't have any of the chemicals in them. They're women-owned, the company. There's no animal byproducts used, which apparently is used in almost all condoms. No dairy byproducts. It's using fair trade latex, and there's no nitrosamine, which is a byproduct of latex production, and that's a harmful chemical, and those are not in Sustain. So there's no parabens, no glycerin. It's amazing what is actually in condoms. Like I said, like condoms and tampons, like that's gross. Like, you're literally sticking those inside of you, and why would we want that junk in them, right? Like, blown away when I actually looked at what was in these. So these are harder to find in Canada, I found, but if you can find them, get them. They're great and no complaints. Yeah, Morgan, we'll do another specific class, okay, because you know cycle tracking and I'm not that great at it. But the other ones that we found, again, it's harder to find these, but these came from Australia, but I got them from Amazon Canada, and they are Glide brand, Glyde. They're very similar to the Sustain condoms in that they're women owned. I love that women are the ones that are making these awesome condoms that don't have any crap in them, because women obviously care about what they're putting on their body and they're empowered. So non-toxic, same thing, ethical fair trade condoms, no fragrance, no nitrosamine, all those kinds of things. So this one was a little bit easier to find, but it took quite a while to get here because they came from Australia. So if you guys find any other natural condoms that don't have any of that junk in it, please share, because that is probably the trickiest thing that I found so far to find. Okay, that's kind of my like product base. Then, because I started using oils 4 years ago, that's what got me into natural wellness and looking into these things, and really led me here. Like, it took 4 years of using natural products for me to get off of hormonal birth control, which is fine wherever you're at. But I started looking into things, so I wanted some resources. So a really great resource is called Taming the Dragon Within, and it is about balancing women's hormones using essential oils. It's by Leanne Deardruff. She's a chiropractor. And it is a really great book. So what I've been using it for, I read it years ago. I've had it for quite a while. But what I have been using it more so now is to day by day know when in my cycle, which also is great when you have that Flow tracker app, so that you know what day you are in of your cycle, to be able to use different oils and different products to support my body a little bit more depending on what part of my cycle I am in. So I won't go into these a ton, but some of my favorites are Progessence Phyto Plus. It is a great balancing oil for women. I use it every morning, every evening, just on my inner arms. I won't go into those details. You can give a Google, you can message me or talk to someone directly about it. There's so many amazing stories and things about progestins. And Endoflex is another one. This is one that I roll over my throat every morning and every evening. And again, just really great for balancing for women. And there's tons of info. Like, you can give a Google and be blown away at all of the info. And then, so I guess I should mention, so progestins is wild yam. It's got vitamin E, copaiba, frank, bergamot, clove, and peppermint. It is great for things like neck tension, maybe some moodiness. Really great just for women overall. Endoflex is just a more supporting balancing oil for all, not just for women, but it's one that I also use. And then Dragon Time is probably the newest to me. And because I wasn't having my period for so long, I was taking the birth control. So now that I've been off, I made sure I rush express this to my house the day that, the month that I stopped taking birth control, because I was like, I need this. I don't want to be without it. I've heard great things. So Dragon Time contains clary sage, which has natural phytoestrogens. So that is good for women during emotional times of the month. It's balancing. It's great for normal, healthy emotions during the female monthly cycle. And it's good for young and mature women. So you can put it on your lower back, your ankles, which is your VitaFlex points, kind of like reflexology for women, lower abdomen. And again, I don't use this one the entire time. And how I figured that out, I'm happy to send you pictures of days. This book is really great. It'll say day 1 to 7, use more of this. Day 14, use a little bit more of this. So I only use this one around my actual menstrual cycle. And then another one that I love is, and everyone's different for pain support. So for me, when I get cramps, this is one that I really love. It's called Cool Azul. It is available on the US side, but also Canadians can get it. And it is really powerful for cramps and backaches. So for me, of course, I haven't had that in so many years that when I did get it, it was awful. And I say that only the first time. So I learned about this after too, was that first period that I had off of hormonal birth control was brutal. I was in so much pain. It was horrible. I felt awful. And I realized that wasn't a true period. So that was more of a withdrawal period. The more I, researched and talked to some people, and that was what's called a withdrawal period. So it was my body withdrawing from being on hormonal birth control, and it was painful and it was awful. So that's when I started using Cool Azul. And right now, when I do have my cycle, it is not as bad anymore whatsoever. Using things like these other oils have been really supportive with that. But just know that your actual cycle off of birth control is not the same as your cycle when you are on birth control. So that was a huge thing that I learned about too. So that was very different for me. But Cool Azul is one that I love for pain. If you have other ones at home that you can use, Panaway is fantastic. Things like lavender. I've heard geranium's really great. There's no right or wrong if you're wanting to support something like that. And I'll usually roll it on, and I'll just put a heat pack. So I use one of these and I'll just rub it on. But honestly, my periods have not been that bad whatsoever. It was just that first withdrawal period that was brutal. And I was like, what is this? Please no. So that's kind of my spiel about this. This is something I've never talked about, but I think it's just a really big need that women, and it doesn't matter whether you want to stop hormonal birth control or change up your, pads or tampons that you use. The point is that you're made aware of it and you're empowered to choose to change if you want, or research about it, or, whenever the right time for you is that you can change, then totally, that's fine. So I think we really need to, as women, work on this together. Ask questions. If you don't want to post things publicly, reach out to someone, send me a direct message. I'll share whatever I know, or, plug you into someone else. But really, how I learned about any of this was because I asked questions. So ask questions, reach out to people. Like I said, do not take this as medical advice. You need to talk to your medical professionals before you stop, change any kind of medications that you're on. These are just some natural supports that I really like to use and I found to help me. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I'm going to quickly do, when we know better, we can do better. Yeah, I was on hormonal birth control for 14 years, so it's never too late. When we know better, we can do better, and it's just a personal choice, right? So I'm not bashing anybody that wants to continue on those things 100%. Like, I was there, and everyone needs to make that decision for themselves. So always happy to talk about this and share, because I know it was such a blessing to me to be able to have ladies in my corner that I could reach out to and talk about this with. So see you guys. Have an awesome night.